All right. Thank you for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. I'm Jeff Zito, taking a look at what celebrities did before they were famous, what their first job was, their big break, maybe their focus when they were younger was completely different. By the way, one of the top shows on the Apple Podcast Music Interviews chart. Yeah, we were number one a couple times. You can check out all of our past guests on celebrityjobber.com, streaming on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating and leave a review. You can follow us on Instagram, celebrityjobber_podcast, and youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. So as I mentioned, this is one of the top shows on Apple Podcasts' music interviews chart. We don't talk to just musicians, celebrities in general, but obviously with this week's guest, there is a musical connection. He was the star of one of the great rock and roll biopics of our time, La Bamba, the story of Richie Valens, who tragically passed away in a plane crash with Buddy Holly when he was just 17 years old. We'll talk to the star of that movie, actor Lou Diamond Phillips. Did he always want to become an actor? What did his parents do for work? What was Lou's big break and his first job? Maybe Lou has some other business endeavors these days that are outside of the world of acting. We'll find out about all of that and more on this week's episode of Celebrity Jobber with my guest, Lou Diamond Phillips.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I just watched the trailer for Get Fast, and I can't tell what it's going to be about in 2 minutes, but I can say it reminded me a lot about one of my favorite shows on TV, Tulsa King. That was what I got out of it in the 2 minutes that I watched it.
It's some hard-hitting action, and it's relentless, you know. It reminded me, from the beginning, when I read the script, it reminded me of like a Guy Ritchie heist film.
Yeah.
You got this guy called the Thief who's trying to rescue his partner and get back a couple of duffel bags full of money. And the movie literally drops you into a chase from the start and never slows down after that. So it's a lot of fun. And as you can tell from the trailer, my character is larger than life. They call him the cowboy. He dresses that way. He talks that way. He's got this whole, sort of folksy persona, but he's a hitman. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it, man. It looked like a lot of action. I'm really glad I just turned it on. I was like, let me check out the trailer. Let's know what you're talking about for a minute. So I'm really glad I did. I'm pretty excited about this film, and it comes out. Is it being released straight to videos, or being a theatrical release?
It's on digital platforms. It's on demand, and I'm told that there are a limited theatrical release as well. So, yeah, look for it. It shouldn't be too hard to find.
Man, tell you what, I'm looking forward to checking it out. So, Lou, what a great career! It's so great talking to you. Can you tell me? Can you dial it back all the way to when you were a young guy just getting into this business? When did you get bit by the bug, and at what age did you figure out that you wanted to be an actor?
Wow, man, that's a long way back. And a lot of people, ask, what got me into acting, and I always say a genetic defect. I did my first play in the 6th grade, and I got to tell you, man, that applause was music to my ears, and I got a bunch of laughs.
Sure.
So. From then on, it was always a part of the curriculum. I did plays through junior high, through high school. In Texas, where I grew up, there's something called the University Interscholastic League, and you can actually compete doing, drama stuff, monologues, duet scenes. Every year there's a 1-act play, and I was winning a bunch of awards. So positive reinforcement. A lot of people were telling me that I was good at it, and that's what I decided to do. I majored in theater in college at the University of Texas at Arlington. So this was not something that I fell into because I looked good in a tight T-shirt. This was something that I actually trained to do.
So it was anything in your family? Like, was your parents into the arts at all, or was this completely all you?
Not in the least. My dad was in the Navy. So I traveled around, a lot as a kid. My mom, was a housewife, and there was no sort of indication. And what's interesting is a lot of guys, in my generation, are Nepo babies, man. They're second generation Hollywood people, and in some cases third generation, and so that was kind of a foregone conclusion for a lot of them. For me, I literally had people going, are you out of your mind? There's no way you're going to be in movies or on TV or something like that. And I just, I never listened to the naysayers.
So both your dad and was it both your dad and your stepdad were both military men? Did your stepdad, they were both career military men?
My father, Gerald Upchurch, passed early, but my dad, George Phillips, he stayed in career military and then retired down in Corpus Christi, which is where I grew up. So lived on a lot of military bases, and that's one of the reasons why I continue, to support our military and do whatever I can to bring some respect to our troops.
Lou, was there any point in time where your parents kind of looked at you and they said, "Okay, look, this is cool. You got this hobby. You're going to a real college. You're majoring in drama, but maybe go in another direction. Maybe if it doesn't work out, because this is tough. This is a dream, right? It doesn't happen for everybody."
No, 100%. And it's funny. The voice that I use in Get Fast is pretty much my dad. So I mean, he grew up in North Carolina and now lives in Texas. So he sounds like this. And he asked me when I was like 13, "Son, what do you want to do for a living?" And at the time I said, "Dad, I want to be a writer." And he said, "Well, I was thinking something where you might make some more money." And then I came back a year later and said, "I want to be an actor." And he said, "That's not what I had in mind." so I just, they like you said, they let me go along, with this thing. But then when I got my first movie at 19 years old and my dad saw it, he goes, "You might be all right, And the funny thing is, it's taken this long, but I have a book coming out. Finally got back to that writing thing. And I have a book called The Tinderbox Underground Movement that I collaborated with my wife on. She does the illustration. That's out November 19th. And it's the sequel to a book called The Tinderbox Soldier of Indira that came out in 19 and sold very, very well and got great reviews. And so that put us on the path to doing a sequel. So really, really happy to get back to the narrative writing and now have 2 books out there that are published.
Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Lou Diamond Phillips. Can you remember your first job, Lou? What was it? Very first job, not necessarily acting-wise, but your very first job ever.
Oh my goodness! Well, it's, a lot of people know that I love cooking. So I mean, a lot of my first jobs, were in the food industry. My first for real job was as a cook's assistant, cleanup guy, all of this at the Officers Club on the Navy base there in Corpus Christi in Flower Bluff, Texas. I would do a lot of the prep and chop the onions and everything, for the cooks. And then I flipped burgers at Whataburger. Was a breakfast cook at a surf shop that no longer exists on Padre Island. So my love for cooking has gone back a long ways as well. So. And now, I'm a restaurateur myself. I'm a co-owner of Tribeca Grill in New York, in Manhattan, with Bobby De Niro.
Oh wow! If I was thinking about getting into the fast food business, and I really had no experience in food service other than being a waiter, would you try to talk me out of it?
You know what? I mean, for actors, and for performers and writers, it's a good job, man, because it's it doesn't require you to do all that much studying, but it does require you to show up. I think that's why you have so many musicians who are baristas. You know what I mean? I wouldn't talk you out of it. I mean, but if you really love cooking, you can work your way up, the ladder and become a chef or something.
The radio business, Lou, it's kind of, it's in a weird spot right now. When early on in my career, and he's still my friend, but early on in my career, I think you had maybe somewhere in your life a relative somewhere down the line that was in the radio business, because I'd walk past his cubicle all the time and there were pictures of you and him. And I used to think that was so cool when I was a very young man. Steve Perkins, I don't know if that name rings a bell, but I remember walking past his cubicle. There was a picture of you and him. And he said, yeah, he's kind of, related to me somehow. I don't remember how exactly, but
that would probably be with my one of my first cousins, Lynn Perkins, and her husband. And so, yeah, probably from back in the day at all the family reunions. I'm part Filipino, so family reunions are a big deal.
Right on.
But yeah, man, and I got to say that all my good friends are still my old friends. The ones that I've known for decades.
Right on. Look, this movie looks so cool. It's called Get Fast. All the streaming platforms on November 15th. Lou Diamond Phillips, just a fantastic career, and good luck to you. You've been great. A great guest. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the time.
Well, easy to say that La Bamba was Lou Diamond Phillips' big break. Came out in the mid-'80s, and it was the story of Ritchie Valens. I know you've seen this movie. It was huge. If you haven't seen this movie, it's a classic. Great soundtrack, Ritchie Valens, Donna, La Bamba, follows the life of this guy trying to make a career in rock and roll, but he was Mexican-American, and back in the 50s, there were no Mexican-American rock stars, so they changed his name from Ritchie Valenzuela to Ritchie Valens, and then the whole story with Buddy Holly and the plane crash. I know, spoiler alert, it happened 70 years ago, just an FYI. But it's such a great movie. His life changed forever after the movie La Bamba. So that was his big break, of course, landing the role of Ritchie Valens in the movie La Bamba. His very first job was as a cook, or I should say in the restaurant business, in the kitchen as a line cook. He said he had a little bit of a love for food and is the owner of a few different restaurants today. One of them he mentioned, he's the co-owner with Robert De Niro. Man, how do you think that is, having that guy as your partner? Talk about anxiety. Wow. So Lou talks about a conversation that he had with his stepfather. And by the way, both his stepfather and his biological father, they were both career military men. So I'm pretty sure Lou didn't get away with a whole lot when he was growing up. But his stepdad said to him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And Lou said he wanted to be a writer. And I think his stepdad tried to, steer him away from writing. Lou jokingly tells the story that his stepdad says, well, I was thinking you would be something where you could make a little bit more money. Now, Lou's love of writing has actually led him to write a couple of different books, and not true stuff, not biographies. The last two books he wrote were fantasy science fiction. So pretty huge imagination from Lou Diamond Phillips. By the way, his latest book, which just came out last month, The Tinderbox, Underground Movement, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever you buy books. Just to point out his love of acting, he mentioned somewhere in the beginning of our talk that it was a school play in the 6th grade. The applause, that's what got him. It was addicting. That's probably the point where he really knew what he wanted to do. And he did it. Really, really cool guy. Lou Diamond Phillips. And his latest movie, Get Fast, looks like a lot of action. I urge you to check it out. And I thank you for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber podcast. If you want to go back and check out past guests and episodes, you can do so by going to celebrityjobber.com. We're streaming wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please subscribe. Would love you to give a 5-star rating and leave a review. You can follow on Instagram, celebrityjobber_podcast, or youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. Who knows, if Lou Diamond Phillips didn't get the role of Ritchie Valens in La Bamba, maybe he would have just been a writer, which would have been a good career, but don't know if he would have had the star power that he has today. You never know. It's that one big break that changes everything. So again, I appreciate you checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber podcast. And until next week, see you then. I'm Jeff Zito.